Hello, this is Giant Master Daniel 96, and today I will be reviewing Star Wars Crucible by Troy Dennin, and let's begin. Well, Crucible is the last novel published in the post-Return of the Jedi era in the Expanded Universe / Legends timeline, and this book was released not long, like about a year before the decanonization of the Expanded Universe, like when they rebooted and rebranded it as Legends. And yeah, so this book was published when like The Force Awakens was in pre-production and all that. And Disney pretty much was had the already had the company and stuff, and then pretty much J.J. Abrams was all in pre-production with Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and this book, is Troy Dennin's last book in the Expanded Universe, but originally that was not the case, because if the Expanded Universe continued, he would have had his own, Troy Dennin would have had his own trilogy, and that's definitely one of the things I would like to see if the EU gets continued, which there is hope with Classic Marvel issue 108, but that's a whole discussion for another time. And also with this book, it's pretty much with the big three, and then it's pretty much setting up with the new generation with Ben Skywalker, Jaina Solo, Tahiri Vela, and like Vistara Kai and Alana Solo. But the big focus in the book, you have the big three, Luke, Han, and Leia, and Lando makes also an appearance, and then you have a brief appearance of his son, Chance Calrissian, which we never get to see much of Chance Calrissian in the Expanded Universe, that is something if they do continue it, which I would probably one thing would like to see is about Chance Calrissian, Lando's son. That's probably one of the things I'd like to see if it was going to be expanded upon in Sword of the Jedi or Troy Dennin's planned trilogy or even further. I'd like to see along the lines of that. And I would say pretty much, the big three probably, Luke, Han, and Leia play the big part, and then I would say Ben Skywalker played a bigger role, and Tahiri Vela had a big part as well. Jaina Solo was featured very minimal in this book, and then you also had Vistara Kai in this book, who is Ben Skywalker's love interest from the Fate of the Jedi series, and definitely this takes after Fate of the Jedi, and also you have Mitra Jev, who was from the Legacy of the Force series, also appears in this book, and then you also have them encounter Mandalorians in this book as well. And then there's also Mortis plays a big part in the story as well in this book, which Mortis from the Clone Wars has a big part in this, and definitely yes, the 2008 Clone Wars show is part of Legends as well, which it is part of both canon and Legends. And so the Mortis, and as I said, that's definitely one of the EU connections that ties in with TCW is this book, and Fate of the Jedi Apocalypse is another. That's another discussion for another time about the EU ties with TCW, and they do mention about Obi-Wan and Anakin appearing on Mortis as well, and then definitely, they go to find the Mortis monolith as well, and then at the end of the book, Luke goes off, and then Ben asks, "Are you going Yoda?" and all that, and then, but we never know where Luke ends up, because probably that was going to be more in the later stories that we would have got, but, Disney and Lucasfilm pulled the plug on the expanded universe and discontinued it, and definitely would like to see more where Luke would have, and where he goes after the events of Crucible and all that. And it looks like he would have went into exile or like into retreat or something. So something along the lines there. And definitely, as I said, if the sequel trilogy followed the expanded universe, if they made, an episode, with episodes 7, 8, and 9, and you still kept the expanded universe, you could have easily had this set after. Like, you could have had, like, if the sequels did follow the expanded universe, you could have had it set after this book, like, in the timeline, like, like, you could have had this, like, Crucible, sort of Jedi and Troy Denon's trilogy as, like, your tie-in stuff. I mean, because it would have been the right age for the original actors, like, would have probably matched up their age in real life around the time, which I think that could have been the way, like, they could have done it, like, if they didn't push the EU off to the side. Like, as I said, had it after Crucible, and I would say it was a pretty good book, and I definitely would like to learn more what happens. Like, I'd like to learn more, like, what happens, and I think even there's a possibility that George Lucas's sequel, like his version of the sequel trilogy, maybe could have been set after Crucible. Like, if he kept the EU intact, but that's another discussion for another time. And yeah, I would say this book is quite good, and I mean, it does have the cliffhanger bit, which I know, like, I would like to see more. Like, I definitely would like to see sort of the Jedi and Troy Denon's trilogy see the light of day, and as I said, I would recommend reading this book, and it is quite good, and I mean, and I do say it was a good way for them to pass on the torch to the new generation, and I feel like, where the original trio was was starting to become more or less relevant, and all that, and as I said, I would give this book a pretty good rating, and that's all I gotta say. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Comment what you think of this book down below, and I'll catch you guys next time with another video. Bye.